Welcome everyone to another inspiring and informational episode of Fabulous After 50. And I am really delighted to welcome today psychotherapist Caroline Tabak on what I find personally as well a crucial topic, and that is insomnia. Insomnia is something that some of us experience more than others over a whole lifetime. But one thing that I'm really hearing by lots of people is it does seem to affect us all to some sort of degree during perimenopause and menopause. So I think this is a really important one because, as I know firsthand, without sleep, we're not much good at anything. But Caroline, maybe before we get into the topic, can I ask you to first introduce yourself to the audience? So who you are, what you do, and why you do it, but also maybe a little bit, where you are right now and why you are there right now, because I love the fact that the women on this show are a whole kaleidoscope of reasons and journeys, etc. So maybe share just a little bit first about how you come to be where you are right now. We met in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm in Brittany with a filthy cold. I will say that to everyone. I do have a filthy cold from throwing myself in freezing cold water every day. But Caroline's also not in the Netherlands. So maybe situate you for the rest of us.
So right now I'm in Andorra and I've never been here before, little country between France and Spain in the Pyrenees. And I love the mountains. And I'm here for a couple of months house sitting. So I'm taking care of a very lovely dog and a guinea pig and a beautiful house on the side of the mountain. So the sun shines most of the time and I'm getting a proper summer.
Wow. What a thing to do.
I know I've been lacking in the Netherlands.
This dog sitting, house sitting business sounds like so liberating. I mean, you're just up and you've gone somewhere else for 3 months from where
Basically,
you could also work.
And I get free accommodation in exchange for looking after the house and the animals, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love it. I've started doing that a couple of years ago and I really enjoy it. And it means, and I work online I work only online at the moment. I recently started working only online.
Right.
And so I can just be anywhere and it's okay.
Isn't that, fabulous.
Yeah.
And so where are you from originally?
Okay, so that's a really complicated question. I was born with a British passport, but I was born in Belgium and grew up there and in Switzerland. Went to French-speaking schools till I was 14. Then being horribly confused about who the hell I was and where did I fit in and all the rest of it, I decided I wanted to go to British school because I had a British passport in the naivety of a teenager.
Yes.
So I went to the British School of Brussels for 2 years, and then I ended up for my last 2 years of school in boarding school in the UK. By then my parents were in Geneva, so I was going home to Geneva for the holidays. And then I had a year out, spent some of that in Italy, went and learned Italian. And then I went back to the UK for university and I stayed there until 17 years ago, and when I came to the Netherlands for a relationship.
Yeah. Right. I love Pat.
So my parents were both born Austrian and they became naturalized after the Second World War. So I'm a crazy mixed up kid. And after Brexit, I went and got myself an Austrian passport so that I could remain European.
Yes.
Because that's how I think of myself, really, with all these really mixed up third and fourth culture kid backgrounds. I just did myself.
But I love it. And I love speaking to you because you make me feel normal as well. And I think a lot of the people on this show do feel like we do, we're
internationals.
We're international. Sometimes it has its problems, as in, who do we feel and roots and, how do we relate to things? But I also tend to see it as just, I am where I am. I'm very open-minded. I pick up the things I like best from all the places that I've been in. It does sometimes make it hard to fully relate to other people. I know lots of people are a bit, or even that I find it too, sometimes going to wonderful dinner parties with lovely, intelligent, wonderful people, but somehow they're not my tribe. And there's somehow a little part of me which is not getting into the connection there, where I don't feel that they fully get it. So sometimes I do feel a bit alone, thinking my own little craziness, which is why it's lovely speaking to people like you, because then I feel, no, there's a lot of us out there. Right. And professionally, you're a psychotherapist, right?
Yeah. That's right. I'm a psychotherapist and I've been practicing for more than 30 years now. It's coming up to, 32 years since I started doing this.
And were you inspired to do this with maybe at the back of your mind trying to make sense of who you were as a,
Yeah, I was trying to make sense of who I was, trying to make sense of why other people behaved the way they do. At school, I
Right,
was bullied and I could never
right.
understand why that was happening, and excluded a lot, never fitted in. I think the original motivation is, why do people behave like that?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
understand. Why are
yeah,
they being nasty to me? I don't get it.
yeah.
Um,
And so, but then
having,
you've made a profession out of it so you could help other people, which I find very
yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, I've just always had an interest in psychology and what makes people
Yeah.
tick anyway.
Yeah, but so you
And
went for the big picture because that's exactly what I've had with the coaching career that
yeah,
I've had over the last 20 years. It is also trying to make sense of why do we behave the way we do? How can we change that? How can we say, okay, shit happens and this and that, but how can we make it mean something different to actually help us
mhm.
now? I can relate very much to all of that, but somehow psychotherapist sounds that big step higher than just, even if you're an accredited many
Well,
times over life
yeah.
coach.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it was a bit of an up and down road anyway, because I did do a degree in psychology.
right.
My father managed to talk me out of a career in psychology, saying you don't want to
Okay.
listen to other people's problems.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And of course, so I ended up selling advertising space, because of course that's really a
Right.
worthwhile career.
Yeah,
But to my dad, it was like, oh,
yeah,
you'll make money.
exactly. And it was something he
He
could relate to, right?
his
Yeah,
concern was about his daughter making money.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I wanted to be interested in what I do.
yeah.
And so I did that for a few years. And then actually both my parents died in that period.
Okay,
And
sorry.
that course, I ended up in therapy and decided, right, I'm carrying on with psychology. And so
Right.
that's
So
what I did.
what?
I work as a psychotherapist and I'm working online.
Okay, so
So
that's with everyone. That's with. Do you have a specific niche of
well, I am an all-rounder, but I'm specializing in insomnia.
actually, I saw one of your posts, I believe, on Facebook or
I
LinkedIn,
think so,
and
yeah.
immediately I twigged because I do think that one is,
Mm,
well, first of all, a big one, full stop. I went through a rather strange period during my divorce. Sleep has always somehow eluded me. I'm one of those people who works through stuff at night. During the day,
mhm.
everything's fine, and then at night it does. But however, for some peculiar reason, during the divorce, it became very serious. It was 3
Worse.
hours a night. They'd actually, almost threatened me with shutting me up in the hospital for 3 weeks and inducing sleep, etc. So
Wow.
I do know how debilitating it can be to
Mm,
not sleep because you
mhm.
cannot think properly. Your entire image of the world and everything is disturbed. But to not get into that side maybe of the story, but more to the fact that insomnia is something that I'm hearing very, very many people around me,
Yeah.
over 50 or, between 45 and whatever the top, that it is something which, even for people who have slept very well all their lives, comes up. Why is that? Is there a specific reason?
I don't know. I think COVID has messed with all of us. There's already a
Okay.
higher incidence of young people with mental health issues than
Yeah.
prior to COVID. So, wouldn't surprise me if also older people were having, it's more anxiety, actually,
Right,
stress and
right.
anxiety. Stress and anxiety can predispose one to insomnia. If you're
Yes, of
somebody who's
course.
stressed and doesn't manage it well, or suffers from anxiety, it's part of a predisposition to insomnia.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
how do we even define insomnia? It's a difficulty to fall asleep or to stay asleep, or it's the amount of hours we
Okay,
sleep?
one is the difficulty in falling asleep. Another is the difficult, there's different manifestations.
Okay.
First of all, there's acute insomnia. So that'll be like, you have one night where you can't sleep, or you're going through a stressful period and you can't sleep for maybe a few weeks very well, or something
Right.
like that, like what you described about the end of your marriage. And that would be thought of as acute insomnia. In other words, it's
Okay.
temporary. Then
Right.
there's chronic insomnia, and that's thought of as at least 3 nights a week for at least 3 months. And very often
Mm.
that will start with the acute insomnia, which will have had an event to set it off.
Right.
And then often, we'll end up, if we're an anxious and stressed person, and we start to get anxious about not sleeping, which many of
Yes.
us
Yes.
do,
Yes.
insomnia is part of that, then we're likely to end up with chronic insomnia.
Yeah,
Um,
because it
you know,
is what you're saying about anxiety. I mean, I think, whoever you speak to from whatever nationality, from whichever age group at the moment, we are in I mean, I'm not saying our world has always been perfect, absolutely not. But since COVID and all the, Ukraine and Gaza and all these weird things that are happening at the moment, we are a lot more anxious. I mean, our image of the world and of, bad things happen, but the base is good. Somehow that's all sort of slightly off skelter. And I hear lots of people describing things which I would put down as anxiety. People having their hearts checked and they're told they're having panic attacks and things. I'm not saying we shouldn't have our hearts checked, okay? But I mean, just a general sort of malaise, to use the fancy French word, and not feeling okay.
Yeah, I
so
think
are you
the general atmosphere at the moment, probably, but I mean, this is a whole different conversation. The politics worldwide, the move to the right, all of this stuff causes anxiety, and anxiety fuels itself. And in itself, it alters our worldview. They're different states. You may well have noticed that when you're anxious, everything looks very different than when you're relaxed.
Yes, very much so.
And they're actually different states in our nervous system where, you can really feel the difference between how you view the world, your perception of the world, because when you're anxious, everything is a threat.
Yes, it is. And you see how it is, we sort of jump for the most silly things. It's almost like we're in a state of flight, of absolute panic, as if there was, war around us the whole time. We're jumpy.
That's exactly it.
We're maybe less tolerant with people, maybe faster to react, perhaps less generous in how we are with people, more judgmental or even snappy,
Yeah.
You say, my gosh, what's the matter with me? Becoming this sort of horrible fishwife or something. But it is okay. So then that gets back to, so we have various causes of what I'm hearing you say, various levels.
There's various levels, and then there's primary and secondary insomnia. So primary insomnia is where the insomnia is due, basically you're having difficulty sleeping. And secondary insomnia, when the insomnia is due to something else, so some other physical issue, or maybe to depression or anxiety, or some kind of treatment you're having, but it's due to some other condition, and insomnia is a side effect of it. Right. So yeah, acute, chronic, primary, and secondary. And the insomnia.
And can we do something about it, I guess, is my first question.
Of course we can, yes.
Okay.
Of course we can. There's a whole, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is a whole self-management toolbox. Once you learn it, once you know what's going on and how to deal with it, you have a toolbox for life if you're somebody who suffers from insomnia. Because one of the problems
sounds very empowering, because the thing is, we don't want to be turning to medicine the whole time. I remember back then they pushed sleeping tablets on me, and I said no, I don't want sleeping tablets, because when will I know where to stop? But that time when it was the hospital business, then the deal was, if for more than 3 nights in a row I had not had a full night's sleep, I take some, and I do occasionally. I actually took half a tablet last night, actually, because there'd been a lot going on. And I thought, well, you know what? I don't want all of that in my head tonight. So I did, but I would much prefer a natural self-management one.
Okay. So, well, the thing is, the thing with sleeping tablets is that they're great for a short-term fix, but they're not a long-term fix.
No. And apparently the quality of your sleep isn't actually that good. It just shuts your brain down.
It affects your sleep architecture, which is the way in which you go from one phase to the next in sleep. So it alters it. But having said that, if you're absolutely desperate.
Yes, as a quick fix, like you said.
It can help, but it's a short-term fix. Yes. And the way that it's most usefully used is a once-in-a-while thing, perhaps.
Often just knowing they're there helps me.
That's right, yeah. So you don't even have to take them. You have the placebo effect, if you like, of just, I can take it if I want to.
Right.
And then just knowing that relaxes you more, and then you can go to sleep.
Okay, we've acknowledged insomnia is there.
The premise of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is to basically look at sleep habits, so looking at your behaviors and your behaviors around sleep. And often by the time we've got to the point of having chronic insomnia, so, when it's a regular thing, through having gone through the acute insomnia and through perhaps worrying about not sleeping, we then can often start to take on unhelpful behaviors that we think are going to help. Like,
Right.
for example, going to bed, oh shit, I'm not sleeping. And this is what I did. I came to this through my own insomnia, menopausal and at the start of COVID.
Right.
End up going to bed much earlier because that way I'll have a better chance of falling asleep. And actually, that's it. The answer
Toss
is
and turn. And,
you toss and turn. So not only are you wide awake when you're going to bed, which is a mistake, but you start to associate your bed with being wide awake, which is the next mistake. So, and then you end up in a vicious circle because you then start to think, oh my God, I'm going to be useless tomorrow if I don't get 8 hours.
Yes. Oh, that one I know.
And of course, the moment you think I'm going to be useless tomorrow because I haven't had 8 hours sleep, because we all think we have to have 8 hours sleep, which is another fallacy. It's good for us, but if we don't have it, we're not going to die,
Yes.
And
yes.
So you end up in a vicious circle. And that's how the chronic insomnia is created, through beliefs like, I'm going to be useless tomorrow if I don't get my 8 hours. And then, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you look at the clock and you see only 2 or 3 hours left to go. And then you can't get back to sleep because you're thinking, oh, I've got about enough. I have to get up in 2 hours.
Because of course that is another one as well. I mean, if we're talking about 50 plus, I mean, quite a few of us have to get up in the night anyway to go to the toilet. But then it's a question of being able to get back to sleep again afterwards, because actually going to the toilet is not in itself. For example, I don't put any lights on. So it's always a bit of a problem when I'm somewhere else, like here in Brittany, where, sometimes I end up in cupboards and stuff like that because I'm following, my routine from home, which is not the right one, to try and not wake myself up, because I mean that is the other thing, right? It's falling asleep. So indeed, so it's looking at the habits and understanding there where, with the best will in the world, we're maybe not doing the right thing.
That's right. Yeah. But we don't know that we're not doing the right thing.
No.
And so, it takes coming to a sleep, a sleep therapist to identify, okay, first of all, what are the habits that you've got into that are actually that you think are helping your sleep, but are hindering it? Another is I get people to fill in a diary of their sleep. What time you go to bed, how long it took you to, what time did you turn your light out? How long did it take you to fall asleep? How many times did you wake up? How long did it take you to get back to sleep? What time did you wake up in the morning? How long did you lie in bed before you got up? So, and all of that helps then to establish what's going on with that person. Are they somebody, and this is far more accurate than Fitbits and that kind of thing, who tend to overestimate the amount of sleep you get. They're not accurate at all.
Okay.
So that's another tip. So coming to a sleep therapist basically will mean that you're doing the diary. I'm teaching you a bit about sleep. I'm teaching you a bit about how sleep happens and what gets in the way of it. So there's a kind of education going on there as well.
Awareness, I guess. You're becoming more aware, right, of things.
You're becoming more aware. You're learning a little bit about sleep. You're learning a lot about your own patterns and how you've started to get in the way of your sleep, because sleep is a passive process. So anytime you put effort into it, like when you're trying to sleep, you're not going to sleep.
It's counterproductive, right?
It causes muscle tension. And with muscle tension, you're not going to fall asleep.
And you have to be relaxed to sleep, right?
Exactly.
I mean, with all the love in the world for my new partner, it must have taken me a year or a year and a half before I could actually really deeply sleep, because it's surrender. It's our most vulnerable moment.
It's absolutely that, yes. It's a completely passive process. So the moment you're making any kind of effort, you're working against the natural process of your body just sleeping. And insomnia is basically us interfering with our body's natural processes through thinking too much.
So it's not even something that we have to do. It's something that we have to just stop doing the rest.
Yes. And of course, this is where sleep hygiene sort of comes in as well on its own. Hygiene. So yes, is that a new term for you?
Yes, I've never heard of sleep hygiene.
If you look at a lot of sleep people, they'll tell you that sleep hygiene will resolve your insomnia. It won't. Sleep hygiene is all habits around sleep. So it's making sure, for example, you've got a comfortable bedroom, that it's cool. So the temperature has to be cool to sleep, because the body temperature drops. So it needs to be quiet. Yes. So no TVs in the bedroom, for example, no looking at your phones in the bedroom. Basically using your bedroom just for sleep and sex.
Right. Right.
Or if you're single like me, it might be just for sleep and reading in my bed.
Yes.
So I decided to make that more flexible. A really strict cognitive behavioral therapist would not allow that, but
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
fan of flexibility.
Well
So,
done.
but how you use your bedroom is really important, because
Yes.
once you've got insomnia, your bedroom and your bed specifically become associated with wakefulness.
Yes.
So you
Or
have
having
to
your office.
break
For
that.
long, I had my office in my bedroom because I
It's
guess I
not a
didn't.
great
It's
idea. I
not a
mean,
great
obviously,
idea, right?
for good sleepers, it's no problem,
Yeah. Yeah.
but for people who struggle with sleep, it's a
Mm.
really good idea. Your bedroom is for sleep and sex,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, in other words, no activities that are associated with wakefulness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the environment as well is really important. So having it ideally tidy, not too much stuff in the room, an environment that induces relaxation.
Relaxation,
Basically.
right? And dark, I guess, to help.
Darkness
Because,
is really important as well,
yeah.
keeping the light out. And actual daytime light exposure is also part of sleep hygiene. And
Right.
they say, really get out as early as possible in the daytime light.
Yeah,
Of course, in
that's
the
right. So
Netherlands, we don't have
melatonin,
much
isn't
of
it?
that.
Yeah. Yes,
Sorry?
yes, yes. Yeah.
But what I found helpful is to use a little light, get a light and use it. So
In the countries where it's a bit dark, you mean, to make sure
yeah,
that
and
we have more
especially in the
increased
winter,
light
even in
during
the
the day. Yeah.
Netherlands,
Yeah.
and it's dark when you get up. To
Yeah.
expose yourself to this bright daytime light, be it outdoors or be it manufactured
Yeah.
light, but it's better.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. That tells your body it's time to be
Yes.
awake.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
dark is really important, pitch dark, really,
Yeah.
has no light influence at all, because your body needs the signal that it's time to sleep. And that's part of it. Having wind down routines before you go to bed, the last couple of hours before you go to bed, you already put the lights low.
Yeah, you're starting to bring a progression
You're
towards.
starting to bring yourself down to a more relaxed state. So you bring the lights low. You perhaps don't watch action movies if you're prone to getting quite,
excited.
You do something quiet, listen to some music, read a book, I don't know, a little bit of yoga, or, some gentle stretches, nothing too activating. And the other thing, of course, is no caffeine before bed, no exercise before bed.
Yes, I learned that the wrong way. I used to go sometimes to the gym at night, and then my legs would be like, kicking away in the bed. I'd be like, for goodness sake, they've got a life of their own at night.
Yeah, preferably, a good couple of hours where you're just winding down. Meditation, no late big meals, no night taps, alcohol disturbs.
Yes.
Even though we live under the illusion that, oh yeah, a glass of wine.
It's a relaxation. It's not. And I think most of us notice in the menopause, alcohol affects us in a very different way.
Enormously, and it affects your sleep architecture. And so if your body's busy metabolizing alcohol, it doesn't sleep properly.
And it doesn't help with the hot flushes at night either. I mean,
it doesn't help with the hot flushes. If I've had more than a couple of glasses of wine, I will wake up in the middle of the night and not be able to get back to sleep.
Gosh, this is all fascinating stuff. I mean, I see we're almost at the end, but okay. So in short, I understand well that, for any of us really struggling with this, I mean, we would very much do well to go and see somebody like you, which will be looking at our habits, will teach us a better sleep hygiene, and will give us all these tips and tricks of how we personally, as in it's not a one size fit all, but how we can develop a more healthy sleeping pattern so that we do indeed let go. But so, okay, I mean, you've given us actually tons of tips. I usually ask for 3 tips for people, just right now and then. I mean, I've heard you say a lot of things. So it's the room cool, the room dark. It's, what did you say? Yes, about increasing the daylight during the day.
Daytime lights, having a regular schedule as well. But there is no evidence that any of that helps with insomnia. However, it is the foundation from which it's necessary, but it isn't sufficient to help you with insomnia. So the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia will focus on 3 areas. And that's the time you spend in bed, the stimulus control. So that's, in other words, what are you doing while you're in bed? Avoiding spending time awake in bed, basically. So
Right.
if you spend time awake in bed, more than 15, 20 minutes, you get up, you go to another room and you
Oh.
read a book, you watch something on TV, you listen to some music, whatever, it doesn't matter until you feel sleepy again. Because the point here is to reassociate your bed with sleep and not have you lying awake in your bed for hours on end.
But what about if you're reading? 'Cause I mean, I love reading, and I read even if I go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, I read more or less until I can't see the page anymore, and then
Yeah,
turn the light off.
I
But
think,
that's actually not good then.
like I said, I read. I
Mm.
think with something like this, it's good to get out of all the habits you have
Yeah,
that
yeah.
help
See if
sleep
it makes a difference.
first.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
to get rid of all your crutches. So at the
yeah.
time that I was suffering from insomnia and I then started doing the CBTI, I was taking CBD oil. I was drinking all sorts of teas. I had lavender on my pillow.
Oh,
I was listening.
those.
I was listening to hypnosis tapes. You name it. I had this ridiculously long list of things I did as a
Yeah,
ritual to go to sleep.
which in itself
So
is strange.
it's a good idea. With CBTI, you will get rid of all your rituals.
Oh, challenging.
And the other good thing about CBTI is if you are taking sleeping tablets on a regular basis, it can be part of you coming off, starting to taper from your sleeping tablets as well. It
Well,
helps.
I like the sound of this, and I'm just so relieved that there are people like you
Mhm.
who understand this. And I mean, sleep is crucial. Sleep deprivation is a form of torture
Mhm.
for a reason, right? I mean, without
Well,
sleep, we do
yes,
nothing.
but it's a lot to do with the thoughts and your relationship with sleep. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things we address here. Also, it's the relationship with sleep. And it's the fact not sleeping, okay, it's not great. We don't feel very good the next day, but we can function.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when we're really anxious about it and get into a state about it, that's when we can't function. And it's
That makes
not the
sense.
lack of sleep that means we don't function. It's the getting in a state about it and getting
Yeah,
to
because then
panic.
you're
and feeling
associating sleep with fear almost, right?
That's exactly
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Part of it is actually just accepting, okay, I'm not sleeping, and accepting it.
Caroline, thank you very much. Very wise words. I think I'm
You're
going to have
welcome.
you back another time because there's 800 things going off in my head I want to ask you about sleep. Right, for
I'd be
now, we
delighted
shall
to.
make sure that in the show notes we have all your details for people who want
Yes,
to take it that step further to really understanding and using CBTI to resolve their dysfunctional relationship with sleep. Then maybe I would put it that way. Thank you for your tips for those of us who right now want to already
you're very
start
welcome. It's a pleasure.
doing something. And yes, here's to another, 50 or so years of blissful sleeping. You
Oh my
never
God,
know.
that takes me to 110. I'm not sure I'm going to manage that.
Yeah,
But anyway.
yeah. Do you know what I heard that the life expectancy for women in the Netherlands is 93.5. That's
Really?
long.
That's really long. As long as
So
it's
we
good
better
quality
resolve
life.
all these issues because there's no point thinking, oh, well, it's too late. It isn't too late. So
Never
thank you for
too
that,
late.
Caroline. All the best to you
You're
all,
welcome.
wherever you
And
are in the
you.
world. And yeah, let's make this happen. Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.